This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Today's reflections are from Mark 9:38 through 50. And it's a warning to those who obstruct faith from Jesus. As it is written in the introduction in this week's bulletin, someone who isn't part of Jesus' own circle is casting out demons in his name, and the disciples want him stopped. So they appeal to Jesus, as Joshua did to Moses about the elders who prophesied without official authorization. But like Moses, Jesus refuses to see this as a threat. In fact, he welcomes good being done in his name, even when it is not under his control. The circle we form around Jesus' word must be able to value good being done in ways we wouldn't do it by people we can't keep tabs on. Whether we'd like to admit it or not, it's hard not to judge others. I don't think we can argue that point with any real validity. We may try to disguise it, chalk it up to curiosity. It's human nature. And as much as we try, we, like the disciples in last week's gospel, keep asking who's the greatest among them, because our default is to compare ourselves with others. And what happens when we encounter people who are the same but different than us? Where do we stand with regard to those who do not follow what we do? And what do we do about it? Is the way we handle it in line with how Jesus instructs us to? I share with you an example of that in the story of Mildred this morning. She's really more of a combination of a tattletale and a gossiper. And I share this with you as an example of the problems that can occur when we think we know what is best about another's behavior. I'm not sure where this story originated from. But Mildred viewed herself as the self-appointed monitor of the church's morals. So she kept an eye and ear open at all times and tattled on someone when she thought what they were doing was wrong. Of course, several members did not approve of this, but they feared becoming a target, so they maintained their silence. She made a mistake one day, however, when she tattled on Frank, a new member. She accused him of being an alcoholic simply because she saw his old pickup parked in front of the town's only bar one afternoon. For quite a period of time, and she was concerned about this. So she emphatically told Frank and several others who were willing to listen within earshot that anyone seeing it there would know what he was doing. Shame him. Well, Frank was a man of few words. He stared at her for a moment and then just turned and walked away. He didn't explain, defend, or deny. He said nothing. But later that evening, Frank quietly parked his pickup in front of Mildred's home. And then he walked home. And he left it there in front of her house all night. Tough lesson. Mildred learned things are not always as we see them, as we perceive them to be. Now, although there is a difference between a tattletale and gossip, there really is no difference on how Jesus feels about our participating in either. And in this morning's gospel, the disciples see someone from outside their group casting out demons, and they think they've unearthed a scandal. Yet Paul Harvey's rest of the story was that earlier in chapter 9, none of them could exorcise an unclean spirit from a boy. Now here they are, wanting to forbid someone who is doing the same thing, but successful at doing it. And the problem is the 12 have no real power to stop him. So they do what they think is the next best thing. They tell on him. They report him to Jesus, expecting Jesus to settle this dispute, to side with them. But we know that's not what happens. Jesus refuses to see this as a threat. Instead, he actually welcomes good being done in his name. Have you ever prayed for Jesus to please change others' behavior, not recognizing perhaps it's our perception, our actions that need to change to serve the Lord as he calls us to? Or simply to just let something be? So much is happening in the world today in our communities, our family and extended families. And I sometimes just throw up my hands and ask, God, why can't we just all get along? Why does there have to be a power struggle? Why can't we just serve you and live in peace? And much to my surprise, God answered me. Look in the mirror, Mary Lou. Why do you do some of the things you do? Why do you take matters into your own hands instead of letting me handle it? Why do you judge others without knowing what they are going through? Now, you've probably heard the expression that people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Is the bottom line of this gospel that we need to first look at ourselves? If we are looking at casting something out, perhaps it's the moments in our life we are not too proud of that betray the cause of Jesus. He warns us what is at stake. If we cause others to stumble, inhibiting their opportunities to live out their kingdom calling, then he says it will be better to have had a millstone hung around our neck before being thrown into the sea. Jesus is telling us there is a choice of two destinies in eternity, and hell is not a tourist destination. Once there, you don't get to choose to go home because you don't like it. Things are not always as we see them, as we perceive them to be. So very often it is the lens, the glass in which we see what we want to see for what purpose it is used for. So I ask you this morning, is the glass half empty or half full? And how about a glass overflowing by the love and grace God has for each and every one of us that we share with one another? Thanks be to God. Amen.